All right, so welcome everybody. Light Painting Brushes Live March edition. Really excited about this episode this month. We've got Kirk Edwards from Texas, Rob D'Angelo from New York, and we've got Mr. Johnny Griffin here with us. So really excited about our guest. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just screen share. I got a little video for you. I'm going to play before we introduce Kirk to you. So just give me 1 second here. All right, so we'll just watch this real quick. All right. So with that, Kirk, welcome. How you doing? We have Kirk Edwards from Texas. Please go ahead and just give us a little introduction about yourself and who you are.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me, Jason. This is super cool. My name's Kirk Edwards. By the way, that Instagram link at the end of that video is not current anymore, so ignore that. But I'm here from Dallas, Texas, and I'm a sound mixer by trade, but I've discovered the addiction of light painting probably back in 2017, I want to say. And I've just been kind of enjoying that ever since as a little hobby.
Awesome. Well, you're great at it, man. You do some beautiful work, so I'm really excited to have you here on the show, man.
Thanks,
Uh,
man.
what's your favorite part about light painting?
I really like the collaborative side of it. I always have an idea of what I want to do on a particular day, like a concept, but I always leave the door open for, the subject input. They might have an idea that I wasn't thinking about.
What do you want to hear? I don't give a shit because Philip.
And so just the natural collaborative side of things no, it's all good.
All right. Welcome to live.
Yeah. We live.
Right.
The dangers of going live.
That's right. Yeah, so let me screen share again. We're gonna go over to your Instagram here. When I look through your Instagram, there's various models, dancers, etc.
Mhm.
And I looked around, and some of these people, I mean, they've got a huge following. I mean, who are the people that you're working with?
I think the main one you're talking about is Letitia. I'm gonna slaughter her last name, Letitia Bouffard Roop or something like that. But she's the female Atlas. Not this one. That's a different yoga instructor. If you keep scrolling down, you'll see Letitia. But anyway, she's an international traveling model. There she is in the purple orb. Yeah, she's probably the person with the biggest following that I've worked with. And it was random. Like I heard she was coming in town to Austin, which is about 3.5 hour drive for me. And she was a bucket list model to work with. And I always try to put myself in kind of uncomfortable situations. That's one of the best ways to learn and kind of grow as an artist. And I figured, why not? I'll hit her up, book her for a shoot. And we met up at the actually I was at a ballet conference, like 4-day workshop for like ballet photography. And so I had to go pick her up from another shoot about an hour from where we were in Austin. Took her back to the hotel. We finagled a room to shoot in. I had her for an hour. And so I had to make sure I have all my, ducks in a row so I could walk away with at least 4 or 5 good images. And we got some doozies with her.
Now, with I noticed a lot of dancers and models and stuff. How did you get into light painting those particular people?
Well,
I
think there's a natural progression with light painters. When they first start, you kind of, you're lighting stuff, still life at home. You're kind of just dragging stuff behind a doll or a vase or whatever, and you kind of slowly progress into people and actual, subjects. And so one of my first ones was my sister-in-law, who happened to be a yoga instructor herself. And also she did some modeling back when she was younger. So I was like, well, this is perfect. She'll be comfortable in front of the camera and she can do cool poses. And one of the main reasons I like to work with that style, yoga instructors, dancers, whatever, they come with poses pre-baked in. So I don't have to worry about telling them what to do. I just literally say, okay, do something that looks pretty, and then they do it, and I can focus on the light painting side of it.
Right. Well, it's great, man. What's your favorite thing personally about working within the medium you're creating your art within, with all these people you're working with? I mean, you kind of hit on that right there. But
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the collaborating, because there's always something that I'm not thinking about that they'll be like, oh, we should try this. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, let's do that, and it turns out amazing. But the instant gratification of being able to see the image on the back of the screen as soon as you close a shutter is a really cool side of it. Also, they don't have to wait 2 weeks for a photographer to edit the shots. They can be like, it's always cool to see like the wow, their eyes just get big as globes, like, oh my God. And so that side of it's always cool because they get to see the results pretty much right then and there.
Right. There's a type of work that you create every time I see you share this technique. My mouth hits the floor. Is there a name? I'm gonna pull up a screen share again and show you something. So how did these come about, man? Like, what's the story here? Because I remember the first time that I saw you share one of these images, and I was just blown away, just how super cool they are, and just fascinated by them.
Yeah. So whenever I discovered, I'm sure you know of Tom Hill, who I think kind of coined the kind of orb or globe, whatever you call it, technique. And I was just fascinated. All this stuff is super precise and like exact and really thought out and planned. And so for like this one, I knew I wanted to do something with his technique that wasn't, ripping off his technique. I hate doing the same thing that people are doing over and over without, you want to kind of make it your own at some point once you learn the technique. And so I had this idea for an Atlas series, and I sat on it for about 2 years. I was worried someone else was going to do it because it kind of seemed obvious, but thankfully no one did. And I knew it was going to be problematic to do it in one shot because, these orbs take about, depending on what you're doing, 30 to sometimes a minute long to create. And you can't expect your model to hold that pose that still for that long, especially because, the light's going up. Every time that light comes back down, it's going to hit them again. And, chances are they're going to move, especially with bodybuilders. This is actually my brother-in-law. So it's nice to kind of have that in the back pocket to go to. But so I knew it was going to have to be done in 2 exposures. And another thing that was limiting the one exposure factor was the room we were shooting in. The ceilings were only about 10 feet high, I think. So I couldn't do it above him and, not have to do a bunch of Photoshop to get the ugly ceiling and rafters and stuff out of it. So what I did is I hung a strobe above my brother-in-law and gelled it the same color that I knew the orb would be. snapped that shot, moved him out of the way, separate exposure, and then drew the orb in the same space, and then put them together after the fact in Photoshop, which I know is an evil word in some people's mouths, but you know,
Well, not
you
so
gotta do
much
what you gotta do to get the
anymore,
shot.
right? Back in the day, it definitely there's this persona that it's got to be straight out of camera and all this stuff. But as live composite has become more and more into the forefront. The camera is nothing more than a tool. So whether you're doing
Exactly.
something, if you're doing something in camera like that, double exposure, it's you're using that as a tool. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful work, man.
Thank you.
I got a couple more here. Just they're just so cool. They just captivate me every time I see you do this type of work. All your work really, but these really stand out to me.
Yeah, they're some of my favorites. They got the most likes too. This one I got a huge
Yeah.
like 40-inch print of this one that's actually at his gym, which is a showstopper. It's turned out great.
Yeah, just all that color and just now is that just gel light on him right there? That's just
Yep, it's just a gelled. I just put an amber gel over the strobe. So I have one above him shooting straight down. I have you can see on the side for an edge on his ribs and arm.
right.
I think I might have had one uh, straight on from front, low, shooting up, just to kind of give a little bit of fill. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
And what does he think about it?
Oh, he loved them. I mean, he's the one that got the 40-inch print.
Right? Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they're great, man. It's fantastic work there.
Thanks.
What or who inspires you to create the style of work that you create? What is it that drives you with what you're creating?
Man, I just like working with people who have really strong personalities, really confident um, people, performers, people obviously aren't afraid to be in front of the camera. People who come to the shoots with ideas of their own, like I said, the collaborative process. They help make me look good. So if you choose who you shoot with wisely, yeah, it only helps you in the end with your end product.
One of the neat things that I love when I look at your work is I love seeing different art forms. Whether that be dance, yoga. We've had Vincent on the show, and he talked about a tattoo artist and the prints that he's doing. It's just so neat to see different art forms be intermixed with one another, and the results are beautiful. It's awesome because these are two separate entities of art that are combining, and it's beautiful together. So you do it very well.
Thanks. It really works well with the yoga. Yoga and light painting is a great pairing because the whole energy aspect and
Right.
chakras and this and that. And when I do the yoga stuff, I always try to keep, you basically have two subjects there. You have your light and you have the person doing their pose, whatever. So you don't want what you're doing with the light to be too overpowering. The second I learned simple or less is more, that's when I really started kind of clicking and kind of finding my own style and groove. And yeah, it works well with the yoga and with dancers as well.
What would you tell someone who is just starting out in light painting? What kind of advice would you give them?
Man, I would say what I did was as soon as I discovered Mr. Page, I went ahead and just bought like the beginner kit. I think it comes with like a fiber optic brush. It comes with a sword. I think one of the plexiglass blades, and obviously the connectors, which are huge. But I would just start doing everything, like pick some people to follow, and it's important to get the wiggles out. Is what I like to say. When do everything, overdo it, just mess up a bunch. That's how you learn. But just make sure at some point, once you get your wiggles out, you want to try to find your own style, not just kind of keep repeating what other people are doing and trying to call that your own. That's I always try to give props to like the people who inspire me. Whenever I do a Eric Perry style orb, I always it's always important to tag those people and support them for sharing their tips and secrets. That's a big deal to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I call it a light signature. Someone that
Oh
develops
yeah,
themselves and has their own distinct, like, you can look at an image and be like, hey, that's him. I know
yeah,
exactly who that is without looking at the name. So, and once
totally.
you get to that point, it's awesome to have that.
Yeah,
Um, Also practice. We live in the age where digitally you can mess up and mess up and mess up and mess and take thousands of images. You know, it's
Right.
not like you're having to print or process film. So
Yeah, it costs you nothing but time.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, let me share my screen one more time here. Where's this?
Oh yeah, so that's my
Yeah.
that's my sister-in-law who's the yoga instructor and one of her friends. This is a place called Fort Worth Water Gardens in Fort Worth, Texas. That's actually where I had my first light painting workshop. Yeah, super cool spot as you can tell.
Yeah, what
Really
a
rad.
beautiful space, man. I'd love to see this for myself, and what a fun environment to be able to create and do light painting. Definitely would love to come out and see this spot for sure.
Well, if you do come down, hit me up. I'll take you there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me check this out here. Yeah, so you've got a couple different links. You've got your Instagram, obviously. How do we follow along? What's the best way to follow along with your work?
I mostly post on Instagram. Recently, I don't know if you heard of Vero, Vero.
Yes.
It's kind of a new Instagram. I'm a big fan. There's zero censorship of your images, so some of my fine art nude stuff that I've done, I can post there. It's not compressed. It has the thing built in where if you turn your phone sideways, it'll reframe the image as it's supposed to be seen. There's no algorithm BS. It's super cool so far. I'm digging it. So I got an account there. Maybe a handful of images I'll start posting there more, but mostly on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. If you want, yeah, jot down any links that you would like in the chat there, and if people
Okay.
see that. Does anybody have any questions for Kirk? They would like to ask him anything? Man, I just want to say I love your work. Keep doing what you're doing. I love the medium that you're working in. You have beautiful
Thanks.
work. I'm a huge fan. So, thank you so much for being here and joining us this evening.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.